Welcome everyone to my first ever Draft League movie. If you're not familiar with what a Draft League movie is, it's essentially a recap of the entire season of a Draft League I participated in. And essentially the format will be, first I'll go over my draft, and then we'll go week by week. I'll show off the team that I brought as well as the game with post-commentary explaining my thought process and plays that I made during the game. I wanted to do this because this is one of my favorite teams that I've ever drafted, and I got pretty far with it, as you'll see. So I definitely thought it would be interesting to show off, and very fun for me to record as well. But yeah, hopefully fun for you guys to watch also. So in terms of the actual draft itself, so this league was called RQA, or Ruinous Quartet Association, and it was a 16-person draft, and we had 120 points, I believe, and we needed to pick 10 to 12 Pokemon. Now, the main reason I joined this draft, originally, so I started draft in about October, so about 6 months ago, and I joined 2 or 3 leagues, and I really enjoyed it, so I decided to join 4 leagues, as I had a bit more time after the second DLC came out for Paldea, for Scarlet and Violet. And one of the new mons that came back that I really wanted to try was Latios, just because it seemed like a really fun mon. But unfortunately, in the other drafts, I wasn't able to get it. And in this draft, I was 16th pick, which is the very last pick. And while wheel pick usually is pretty good, because I was looking for a very specific Pokemon in Latios, I was not really super optimistic that I would end up getting it. But somehow, luckily, I did end up getting a Latios. So Latios ended up being my first pick. And I mean, this mon is just kind of insane, right? We have incredible stats, 90 attack, 130 special attack. So usable attack, great special attack, solid speed in 110. And it has a pretty good bulk with an 80, 80, 110. So it can definitely take a neutral hit, or in general take a few hits, even uninvested, right? Levitate is a fantastic ability. Dragon Psychic is also a very good offensive typing. And Latios gets excellent coverage. And with the DLC, it had 2 big buffs. Luster Perch, it got buffed to 95 power, and has a 50% chance to lower the target's SPDF by 1, which really helps with breaking down Lottie's checks. Now, I'm pretty sure the entire season I didn't end up getting any SPDF drops off of the 50% chance, but, you know, it is definitely something that theoretically could occur. Another big buff was Flip Turn. Latios now has a pivoting move, which is really, really nice because it really buffs its Scarf and Spec sets, because you can run a pivoting move, and if you're expecting an unfavorable scenario, you can easily flip turn out, get momentum, bring in one of your other big threats. And really with this Latios, there was a specific core that I had in mind. Now with the 16th pick, I really did not expect to get the second Pokemon on this core, or even Latios in general, but somehow I did end up picking Latios and Golden Go. And Golden Go is kind of an insane pairing with Latios, in my opinion, mostly because, I mean, defensively, right, Latios is weak to Ice and Fairy. Golden Go resists Ice and Fairy. Golden Go is weak to Fire and Ground, and Latios is immune to Ground because of Levitate and resists Fire. So defensively, this is a great typing combination. And on top of that, Latios is also very checked by fairies, and Golden Go is definitely a very strong fairy killer with that 120 base power, Make It Rain, and this 133 absurd special attack stat. So overall, I thought this was a great pairing. I thought it was really cool, and the cool thing about Golden Go is because of its good as gold ability, it actually is the best hazard remover denier in the game, which means that it blocks Defog with good as gold, and it blocks Rapid Spin because it's a ghost type. Additionally, Latios and Golden Go both really appreciate Hazard Chip to put things in range of their 130 special attack hits, as well as to wear down their checks. So, the next mon that I ended up getting was, in fact, supposed to be Glimora, but unfortunately, it got sniped. Glimora was a grounded poison, a removal option, and obviously one of the best hazard setters, but I got something very close in Tinglu. Now, Tinglu is an incredible ground and Dark type. Both very important types to have in your draft. But also just has absurd stats, 155, 125, 80 SPDF. Is incredibly bulky, lives any one hit guaranteed, and can do a solid amount of damage with its 110 respectable attack. Also with Vessel of Ruin, nerfing special attackers by 75%. This 80 special defense is actually much higher than it seems. Now, additionally, Tinglu obviously gets spikes and stealth rock, so making it one of the best hazard setters in the game, considering its bulk, allowing it to get up multiple layers very easily, as well as decent coverage in body press and whirlwind and earthquake, heavy slam, things like that. So Tinglu is a great Pokemon, honestly one of my favorite Pokemon in Gen 9, and I was really glad I was able to pick it up. Somehow it lasted to the 32nd pick, because I was 16th pick, so this was my first wheel pick. And now as a wheel pick, I got to pick a second Pokemon at the same time, and somehow I also ended up with Meowscarada. Now Meowscarada is absolutely an insane Pokemon, right? 110 attack, 123 speed, very fast, hits pretty hard, but its big thing, obviously protein, gives it stab to whatever the first move that you use is. Unfortunately, protein did get nerfed this gen. It used to be that it gives stab to every single move that you use, and your typing would change every time you use a different move, which made Greninja and Meowscarada, or which made Greninja really broken, and would have made Meowscarada also really broken. Unfortunately, that was nerfed, and it's only the first move that the Mon uses now. However, choice sets don't really care, and Choice Meowscarada is one of the best fast revenge killers in the game. It also has options for spikes and toxic spikes again, which is really cool, because I get a secondary hazard setter in case Tinglu doesn't want to run hazards or can't run spikes or toxic spikes. Additionally, it gets this really strong move in Flower Trick, which is its signature move, 70 base power, grass, always results in a critical hit, and doesn't check accuracy, which is really, really nice. But besides that, it does get great other coverage, knockoff. With the DLC 2, it did get triple axle as well, which lets it hit some of its checks, like Torn Tea or Amoonguss, for example. So that's really nice. And it gets access to some utility like Trick, Priority, and Sucker Punch. Just a great mon overall and a fast threat for my team. Now, after this, I was really looking at my team, and I realized that I don't have any hazard removal. Originally, I was going to get Glamora, but before I got sniped because it was hazard removal with Mortal Spin, but because I didn't have any, I decided that's what I need to prioritize this round, and the next mon that I picked up was Quaquaval. Now, round 5 Quaquaval does sound kind of absurd, but somehow it did make it back to me on the wheel. So yeah, I ended up with a Quaquaval with Aqua Step, which gives you a 100% chance to raise the user's speed by 1 every time it's used, a stab water move, as well as close combat and ice spinner for great coverage, or triple axle if you're okay with gambling that. Quack also gets flip turn, which is really nice for more momentum. So you can see 1, 2, 3 of my mons get momentum, which is really nice, especially when you have a mon like Tinglu. I like to come in and set up spikes and allow these mons to force switches. And as you get momentum on your switching, on people switching in, then you end up with racking up hazard chip, which is really nice. On top of that, obviously it gets rapid spin, the main reason why I got this mon, and it's just a really good defensive water. It can be very defensive with 85-80. If you invest, it does actually take some hits decently. I needed a water type as well, so that was really nice. It gets cool utility in Encore and Taunt. Decently fast with 85 speed, especially with Aqua Step and Rapid Spin. And then Moxie just makes it a threatening sweeper. If it gets, if you let it get too out of hand, it can basically just sweep your entire team, getting attack boost from Moxies, speed boost from Aqua Steps. Now, because I was on the wheel, I got to pick a second mon, and I needed a grounded poison and a fairy. So I ended up wanting to try out Pheasantipity, because Pheasantipity was really, really cheap. And at this point, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expensive mons, all 14 plus. So I really needed something cheap and something that roll compressed, and Pheasantipity did do that. I wanted to try it out because it has pretty solid defensive stats, honestly. 88 HP, 82 defense, 125 SPDF. With investment, they're all quite usable. Has 2 offensive stats that are kind of meh, in 91 attack and 70 special attack, but they do get the job done, especially since you can boost some of the special moves with Technician. And you can, 91 attack is honestly very usable for a defensive mon like this. Plus it gets decently strong moves in Poison Jab and Gunk Shot, as well as Play Rough and Moonblast, so it can be physical or special, which is really nice. And the big thing, more momentum. I am a very momentum heavy player, so I really prioritize getting momentum, and I really liked having a fairy that has good offensive momentum with U-Turn, which combines with its Toxic Chain ability, which has a 30% chance of badly poisoning. So basically Poison Touch on steroids, which means U-Turn, every time I click it, has a 30% chance of badly poisoning the target. Not only that, but Pheasantipity is even more broken because Moonblast and Sludge Bomb, even though they're special moves, they all still compound and have a chance of activating Toxic Chain. So Sludge Bomb is actually a 60% chance to poison the opponent, which is really, really nice. And yeah, you'll see some cool strats with that later. But overall, I thought that this was a cool mon to try out. It does get Roost as well to heal up, so I wanted to see how it performed on this team. Now at this point, I was looking at my team, and I realized that bulky waters really give me a lot of trouble, right? They resist Golden Ghost, Make It Rain, they threaten Tinglu. Meowscarada does do decently well against bulky waters, but I kind of want another option, especially since Quack and Latios really struggle with that as well. Because Latios needs to predict on Thunderbolts, and Quack gets walled by most of the bulky waters in the tier, in the decks. So for that reason, I decided to get probably one of the best bulky water checks in the game, in Thunderous Therian. This mon has an absurd 145 special attack stat, has a solid 101 speed tier, which is also something I needed. Right now my speed tiers look like 123 with Meow, 110 with Latios, 99 with Fez, 85 with Quack, and 84 with Golden Go, and then 45 with Tinglu. So I needed a base 100. Fez is often not going to be speed invested, so the base 99 speed doesn't really count, and it often is not super respected. So I wanted to kind of have a mon that outsped base 100s and was a speed tier that needed to be respected by Pokemon above base 100. And Thundurus really fits that role. On top of that, I had a pretty major ground weakness in the Pheasantipity plus Golden Go. And I kind of wanted to alleviate that a little bit. Get a nice flying type that can be a secondary immunity besides Latios. And so Thundurus also does that as well for me. Volt Absorb is also just pretty decent. Just giving me another immunity. Never hurts, you know. And with this also, Thundurus just gets a lot of really good coverage. And the big thing it also gets is U-Turn and Volt Switch. So 2 forms of momentum. As you can see, my team is very momentum heavy because I really enjoy having momentum. So overall, I really enjoyed that aspect of this team. But from there, because I was wheel pick, I kind of wanted a secondary form of removal, just in case it looks bad in a certain matchup. And there was a Terramon that I kind of wanted to try. I thought it might be interesting, and that was Cinccino. Cinccino is a pretty interesting mon because in DLC 2 it did come back, I believe, or it got buffed with Tidy Up. And Tidy Up basically removes hazards. It kind of sucks because it removes your own hazards as well, but this was not meant to be like my primary hazard control option, so I thought it was okay. And it raises your attack and speed by 1, which on Cinccino, which is a 115 base speed Pokemon with a 95 base attack, definitely boosts those numbers up to pretty respectable amounts of damage. And with Technician or Skill Link, Technician can boost the power of a lot of these lower base power moves. And you can use Bullet Seed plus Loaded Dice, Tail Slap, and Rock Blast. All very good multi-hitting moves that with Loaded Dice hit guaranteed 4 to 5 times. and are all Technician boosted. So I thought this was a really cool Pokemon. Obviously, you can see that this moveset gets walled by Steel types. So I thought Tera could be an interesting option to allow this Pokemon to hit those Steel types with either Tera Fire or Tera Ground. And I think I ended up going with this was a 3 Tera type league with 1 Stab type and then 2 non-Stab. So I believe I ended up going with Tera Normal, Tera Fire, and then Tera Ground. Both options to hit Steel types on a moveset kind of like this. So I thought it was a cool idea. Wanted to try it out. But after that, definitely the MVP of my season, the thumbnail Mon. And I'm sure the Mon a lot of you want to see put in work this season. But one of my favorite Mons, Tera Mons, probably ever, in Regirock. So this Mon has an absurd base 200 defense. Combine that with a solid base 100 SpDef, 80 HP. This Mon is an absolute tank. It literally eats every physical hit, regardless of what Pokemon it's coming from. If it's super effective, it will basically take everything. Combine that with Body Press, which uses the user's defense instead of attack. To damage calc, you end up with a potentially 548 base attack move, fighting type move, which if you combine that with Tera Fighting, you get Stab on too. So I really wanted to try out this strategy. I thought it was really cool. And I really wanted to see Regirock put in work because it has amazing stats. It just is held back by its typing. So if you can tear out of its typing, then I thought that it could honestly do pretty great. My secondary Tera type, I went with Ghost just because it's immunity to fighting. And I think it could be useful considering my team currently does have 2 Darks in Meow and Tinglu. So I thought I might as well go Ghost. Also lets me spin block, which is really important on a hazard stack team like this. So I thought it could kind of double in a couple of different ways, especially since Regirock can switch into a lot of the big spinners in the decks. But yeah, also gets solid coverage. All the punch moves can explode. Gets heavy slam and things like that. So definitely a very good Pokemon. Good options, and you're going to see it put in massive work this entire season. And then with my last pick, I had 2 more points left that were also terrible. So I ended up going with a Tera Vespiquen. This was an interesting mod. I kind of wanted to try it out because it has respectable stats for a 2-point mod at least, with 70, 102, and 102 SpDef, as well as solid 80 attack, 80 special attack. And it gets some decent like acrobatics, attack order, very cool moves, Destiny Bond, and solid utility with a Roost. And big thing, also it gets spikes and toxic spikes. So I thought it could be an interesting secondary hazard setter or tertiary hazard setter, I guess, since Meow also has this option to combine with my hazard stack team. And with like Tera Water and Tera Steel, gets rid of a lot of its weaknesses. And can be a solid defensive Pokemon with Roost and attack order or infestation or whatever else I kind of wanted to run on it. But yeah, that was my entire draft. Yeah, I mean, I think the team just looked really, really strong coming out of the draft. So I felt very, very confident. I thought that the team had a lot of cool options, some great synergy. And I think I felt very comfortable with a lot of these mons and how they play out. So I couldn't wait to get the season started. And the first game I ended up playing against Tyler, which you can see here has a Curum along with Sticky Webs and Slowking for Chilly Reception to set up Hail. So this was a really scary team that I was facing. The team also had some Pokemon like Gliscor and Frostlass for hazards, as well as Hisuian and Electrode. That was Tera. So this was definitely a really threatening team for me. And so really, Curum checks on my team just didn't exist. It had Earth Power for Pheasantipity and Golden Go, which were my only real switch-ins to its stabs. Freeze Dry to hit Quack, and then generally like just hit really hard with Draco Meteors and Ice Beams into my Tinglu as well. So Kyurem was a huge threat, especially with web support. And so my team that I ended up bringing was this team. So we have a Yachi Berry Quack, and this is to bait the Kyurem. And so after I take a freeze dry from the Kyurem using my Yachi Berry, get off a nice close combat. It does about 60 to 70%. And I was hoping to try and get up rocks or potentially do some chip with some other Pokemon and potentially put it in range of something like Latios later to take it out. Additionally, I just thought Bulk Up, Aqua Step looked really good in this matchup, potentially as an endgame sweeper if I could get it off. We just sped crept, I believe, Quillfish maybe? Yeah, I think it might be Quillfish. Put the rest in defense. And yeah, went max attack Adamant because we could. We have a physically defensive Tinglu with leftovers, Spikes, Stealth Rock, Dual Hazards. The one thing I did notice about this team, it only had Donphan as a rapid spinner or hazard control. And so I thought hazard stacking might be the best way to beat the Kyurem, since the Stealth Rock does 25% to it every time it comes in. And I went Mono Earthquake because I didn't really need another move. And I could just whirlwind out things like the Gliscor, which are immune to the Earthquake. And then full Fizz Def for different physical threats like Scizor and Donphan and Infernape, because even though it has fighting moves, Tinglu is just a beast and eats pretty much every hit from Infernape still. Next mon I went with is Choice Specs Latios, just because it looked insane offensively into this team. Yeah, I mean, it's really the only check was Slowking, which Choice Specs Thunderbolt does 2-shot, or at least does a significant amount of damage. It might do like 80%, 88%. So I believe it killed after rocks. So very, very strong Pokemon. Really getting to abuse its full power here, especially since the team was very, very slow. Only fast mon was really Infernape and Hisuian Electrode. So I felt very comfortable bringing a Choice Specs Lottie since nothing else better except for the Electrode. And just dual stab with Flip Turn for momentum. Then we had a Pheasantipity with Shuka Berry for the Earth Power Kyurem. I heavily teched against the Kyurem because it really felt like the only threat to me in this team. So I really needed to figure out creative ways to kind of take it out. And so this Shuka Berry Pheasantipity is one of them, with Icy Wind to slow down the Kyurem, and then Moonblast to two-shot it after I eat my Shuka Berry and take the Earth Power. Roost just to keep myself healthy, just because this is generally a solid SPDF check for things like the Electrode and the Infernape if it decides to be special. And then we have U-Turn again for momentum. We have this EV spread here. I don't remember what it does anymore, but some very specific calcs. Potentially to not get two-shot by the Kyurem after using the Shuka. Choice Specs Kyurem, that is. So, yeah, that was my SPDF Pokemon. And then on top of that, we also went Assault Vest Regirock with Tera Fighting instead of Tera Ghost this matchup, just because it resisted Scizor's Bullet Punch and just to boost the body press damage. So with the AV, I took on the Kyurem's hits pretty well. Once I Tera out and I don't get hit super effectively by the Earth Power, and then Body Press just kind of blows it up. Even uninvested, 438 is still an insane amount of defense. So Body Press with Tera Fighting still blows it up. Rock Blast hits it, is just pretty much a stab. Hits Ribombi through Focus Sash, which is really nice. So I don't have to take more than one hit. And I can punish it going for a Sticky Web just by an immediate knockout. And then we have Ice Punch, Drain Punch just as coverage moves to hit pretty much Gliscor and probably just Scizor just for some recovery. I didn't really need any fourth move here, so I was pretty much going to be spamming Body Press and maybe Ice Punch if Gliscor came. And then the last mon was an Air Balloon Golden Go, which once again is for the Kyurem, so that I can switch into Earth Powers. Since it does hit the majority of my team super effectively, gives me a ground immunity as well as Make It Rain just blows up a Kyurem with I'm max special attack modest. And then Shadow Ball, Nasty Plot Recover, just because I didn't really need any coverage moves, and Nasty Plot recovers. Common set that I ran on Golden Go this season is it just is a really good set. Yeah, and enough speed for something, and then the rest in HP just to make it kind of bulky so I could take hits. Maybe from the Kyurem a little bit better if I get chipped down or if there's some hazards from the Gliscor and things like that. But yeah, so that's the team I brought for week 1. And yeah, we can get into the battle. So we see a Regirock lead into Rabombi. My plan was to go for Rock Blast, of course. As you can see, with 3 hits, it does take out the Rabombi in 1. So even if it was Focus Sash, it didn't matter. And now I go into my Golden Go, which is on a balloon on the Slowking. Get a free Shadow Ball here as he decides to go for a Future Sight. Now he chilies out as I Shadow Ball, get a Spit F drop. So Infernape comes in for free. I go into Tinglu to eat whatever hit this wants to go for, which I expect it to be physical. It ends up being special, but I basically take the Future Sight for free. Infernape switches out because it knows it can't kill my Tinglu in 1 as I go for an Earthquake. Do a little bit of chip to the Donphan, and now I find this as a opportunity to get my Quaquaval in and Rapid Spin away the webs, as Slowking is pretty obviously coming out, and as you can see, I do get rid of the webs, which is really nice for me. Now as Slowking comes out, I go back into Golden Go just because I don't want to take any Psychic move as he goes for a Slack Off. I click Shadow Ball, as you can see, is doing an absurd amount of damage, and now he's forced out because it Shadow Ball 2KO'd anyways, so it doesn't really matter, but he gets up. A Future Sight switches out into Infernape. Infernape takes a lot of damage, but I just go into my Tinglu. And as you can see, I am max Vizdef, max HP, and yeah, I still took 24% from this Infernape, which is probably max special attack. So, very, very bulky mon Tinglu is. Eats the Future Sight for free. Now I got another free Earthquake off, or actually I decide to Rocks up here, which Donphan comes out. Now I'm expecting a Spin or a Rocks, so I get in my Specs Latios for free, claim my kill. Go for a Draco, get rid of the Donphan, so the rocks are here to pretty much stay unless he is Defog Scizor. Slowking comes out again. He does make a good play here in Chili on my Quack, but I'm just going to sack off Quack here just to get a Rapid Spin off, pretty much. Yep, as you can see. And now I can take pretty much any hit from here. I mean, this Scizor actually reveals to be Scarfed here. I expect it to outspeed because I am speed creeping this. And then get off a Rapid Spin to get rid of the rocks before the Scizor can really take me out with anything. Except for Dual Wimby is the only thing that actually KO'd me from this range. So I felt pretty confident about this, but he ended up being Scarf Scizor. But I do live the Scarf Close Combat, go for the Rapid Spin, and then I go for Close Combat, just kind of sacking my Quack off now because it doesn't have enough health to really do anything. But the Slowking comes in here, and I decided this is kind of a free switch to Golden Go. I can kind of save my sack here for the Kyurem, which is really nice, letting me get in something for free on the Kyurem. So I decided to go directly into Golden Go on the Scald. My balloon does get popped here, which is a bit unfortunate, but I do get a free Shadow Ball here. Does a lot of damage to the Slowking. He does chili out. But as you can see, even with Regenerator, the Slowking is in range for my next Shadow Ball, which is pretty important. And then Scizor comes out here. Now I know that this Scizor is Scarfed. I'm assuming it's going for a Scarf knockoff. I just go into my Quaquaval just to sack it off. And he does go down here. Now I go into my Fizdef Tinglu. I have a free Earthquake because the Donphan is gone. There's no switch-ins. As you can see, Slowking takes 42%. I just go for another one and take it out. So now Kyurem comes in for free. As you can see, it is not Boots, which means it does take rocks damage. I go into Pheasantipity because I still have my Shuka active, and he ends up being Physical Dragon Dance. So this is kind of scary. He goes for the Icicle Spear. As you can see, he gets a 4-hit, so I'm assuming he was loaded dice. If he got a 5-hit, he did KO me, which would have been kind of an awkward position to be in. I still would have been able to go to Regirock, though, just because Regirock has an absurd amount of defense. And even uninvested, I still would have taken any one hit, especially since Kyurem doesn't get any physical, ground coverage, and I could just tear out of the Iron Head, so he would have had to gotten multiple Iron Head flinches in order to win from this position. So I think I was okay regardless, even if I did get 5-hit here, but Fez does get the Toxic Chain off with a Moonblast, as you can see, take out the Kyurem while it goes down as well, so we got a double down here as Scizor comes in. But Tinglu beats both of these Pokemon, so I just go into Tinglu. I get crit here by a U-turn, which kind of sucks, but I mean, Earthquake plus another Earthquake should still take out the Scizor. And Scizor should not be able to kill me with anything, any one hit. So yeah, U-turn comes here. And I click Earthquake, and the Scizor does go down. So with that, I get a quick 4-0 victory. My first game with this team, which was really nice. Starting off the season really, really strong. So from there, week 2, we ended up going against Tommy. And Tommy had a very scary Ursaluna Blood Moon team with a Clefable and a couple other threats like the Azu, the Belly Drum Azu, as well as Galarian Weezing, which was a really big problem because it walled a lot of my physical offense. And then I obviously just didn't have any answers to things like the Belly Drum Azu or like a Blood Moon Ursaluna, and Dragapult was just there as a good supporting piece just to really put pressure on my team. So this was probably one of the most challenging matchups I felt I had this season. So I really had to cook up an interesting team for this one. So we ended up going with a Loaded Dice Chinchino with Tidal Up for the hazard control, Tail Slap, Rock Blast, Terra Blast, Fire to hit the Skarmory for super effective damage. And with this set, we went a solid amount of speed and max attack Adamant, which was really nice because after one Tidy Up, we can two-shot Skarmory with the Terra Blast Fire. So that was the idea there. We also had a Thunderous Therian with Heavy Duty Boots. With this is to threaten the Skarmory as well as the Azu with Thunderbolt, Sludge Bomb, Grass Knot, and Volt Switch. Grass Knot also O-code, I believe, the Ursaluna Blood Moon, depending on its spread, if it was offensive, or depending on if it had a bit of HP investment. But yeah, and it was also a Earth Power Switch in if I needed it to be a bit aggressive. I decided to go Volt Switch just because against Ursaluna Blood Moon, if he tries to switch in Ursaluna Blood Moon anyways to block, I'll just click Grass Knot and O-code it. So I thought Volt Switch was just better just to do more damage to Azu if it tries to switch in on my Thundurus. And then I ended up going with a Choice Specs Lati again. This team was also quite slow. Besides the Dragapult, Latios did outspeed everything else, so I thought it would be okay to go for a Specs Latios game again, as there was no real switch-ins to it. Luster Purge really destroyed the Weezing that was very threatening to me, and allowing me going Specs allowed me to beat Clefable, which was a big thing. Luster Purge did two-shot it, I believe, or two-shot after a little bit of chips, so that was a big motivation to going Specs here. We go Surf, Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt was for Azu, Surf was for Ursaluna Blood Moon, Flip Turn just for momentum. And I did have to go Modest for that roll. With Clefable. Now Tinglu, I decided to go Pasho Berry. This was one of my checks to Azu because in case it went for the Belly Drum, I would be able to live Liquidation and go for a Whirlwind. That was one of my checks for Azu, since Tinglu is very passive and is probably the easiest Pokemon for Azu to set up on. Everything else kind of punishes Azu trying to set up. Bullet Seed, Thunderbolt. So I didn't want Tinglu to get taken advantage of, and then I kind of just get swept by Aqua Jet if Azu gets off the Belly Drum. So besides that, Earthquake and Throat Chop just hits everything pretty nicely. Throat Chop has a cool interaction with Ursaluna Blood Moon. If it is a Hyper Voice set, Throat Chop does block it. And yeah, I went Max Spadef for the Ursaluna Blood Moon. This was my main Ursaluna Blood Moon check as well. Enough speed to outspeed it, and then Throat Chop it to try and get rid of its Hyper Voices was kind of the idea. We also go Assault Vest Regirock again, but this time we're Max Attack Adamant with some defense investment. This was mostly just because I didn't really know what set I wanted to go here. So I kind of thought it might be nice to have like a blanket check to mons like Dragapult if it decides to go special. And something like the Hisuian Typhlosion, which was definitely an option, while also still being fairly physically defensive for mons like Hawlucha, which was a big threat with the Galarian Weezing and things like that. So we are Body Press, Thunder Punch, Heavy Slam, and Explosion. Terra Ghost, I didn't really expect Regirock to Terra this game because I expect this Cinchino to need to Terra, so I just decided with Terra Ghost just because it was better into things like the Hawlucha and the Hitmontop, which was also very scary for my team with Triple Axle and fighting move like Mach Punch. It kind of hits everything on my team. So an option for that as well. But yeah. The last mod are Dragapult check, Pheasantipity, Leftovers, Sludge Bomb, Mood Blast, Roost, and Taunt. You can see I go special a lot in most games where I can, just because I hate missing and Play Rough has a chance to miss. So because of that, I go Sludge Bomb, Moon Blast a lot. But yeah, this set is Roost and Taunt. Taunt is specifically for the Azu, so it can't Belly Drum on me. And Sludge Bomb punishes it by doing a solid amount of damage after I taunt it. But yeah, I am fairly physically defensive once again for the Azu, as well as just to stop any like mixed Dragapult shenanigans, since I do have a solid amount of base speed F anyways. And so this pretty much eats every hit from Dragapult, regardless of what set it is. It pretty much blanket checks the entire Pokemon. So yeah, that is the team that I brought to week 2. So now we can get into the battle. So we see an Ursalunu Blood Moon lead into my Thundurus. I was considering going for a Grass Knot, but I didn't have enough info yet. I didn't want to give up my Thundurus for free because Thundurus was so good here. You can see it destroys the Azu, destroys the Skarmory, blows up the Weezing with Psychic, and then hits all of these other Pokemon pretty hard. So I decided I'm just going to go into my Tinglu. It is my Ursalunu Blood Moon check. I get crit, unfortunately, by Blood Moon. And I decided to go for an Earthquake as a Calm Minds. I do know I live another one, so I decide that I'm going to, or I don't live another one actually because of the crit. The crit put me in Mage, which was really unfortunate. But I knew at this point that Grass Knot from Thundurus would do a lot. And I believe I lived one guaranteed, even from +1 because he couldn't Blood Moon again. I was pretty sure I lived a Hyper Voice, and I'm immune to Earth Power, so I decided to take my Grass Knot damage now. And he ended up going a Calm Mind, I guess recognizing that. As he switches into Dragapult on my second Grass Knot, I get a crit back here. And then I go into Pheasantipity. As you can see, I eat the Shadow Ball for breakfast, but I do know that that is Choice Specs damage, so that's really good to know. I Moonblast here because I don't want to make any over-predict. Skarmory is pretty obvious, but I didn't want to over-predict. And I knew I could taunt the Skarmory, so I didn't have any spiking or other shenanigans. Unfortunately, he does predict that, I guess, and go for a Iron Head, which means I now need to switch out into Thundurus, but I do threaten it out now. And I go for a Volt Switch, get a bunch of damage off on the Weezing, and now I get my Specs Latios free. And then he sacks off the Weezing, which is really nice because now my Quaquaval doesn't really have that many great checks, especially if I can get rid of the Skarmory, which is why I decided to stay in with my Latios and take the Lesser Purge damage. As he goes for the Brave Bird twice into my Thundurus, I get another free Volt Switch off here, as you can see. Go directly into my Regirock because I can take any hit, even the Specs hit at this point. I go for a Heavy Slam just to cover pretty much everything coming in. Actually, I think I predicted the Azu there because it doesn't really hit anything else. I was Rocky Helmet Quack. Oh, I think I had the wrong set. Yeah, I think I switched out the Chinchino because I did some mocks and I realized that the Chinchino was not doing too well. So I ended up going with Rocky Helmet Quack with Encore, actually, in this game. Right. So this set was Encore, Aqua Step, Close Combat, and Roost, I believe. And it was like max physically defensive, specifically for this Azu. And it came in really clutch here, this change, because I was able to take the knockoff and then Encore the Azu into the knockoff. And as you can see here, Skarmory's at 30%. Dragapult is at 43%. Ursaluna is almost dead, and Typhlosion dies to one Aqua Step. Azu has also been significantly chipped here at 47% because of switching in to different attacks, as well as my Rocky Helmet that was knocked off. And Quack is actually in a position to potentially win here if I just get a little bit more chip on everything, and with the speed boost. So you can see he decides to switch into Skarmory on my Aqua Step. I go for a second Aqua Step, take out the Skarmory. Now I'm at +2 speed and +1 attack because of my Moxie. Now at +1 attack, I do actually not KO the Dragapult, but Spec Shadow Ball does not KO me. I live at 10%. Then Dragapult switches out because it's still useful, but Azu comes in here, takes 25%, and I live the Aqua Jet on 1%, which means I can get off another Aqua Step here. And from here, the Quaquaval just kind of goes crazy. Everything is in range. Nothing can outspeed me. So I just end up winning here with 3 short Aqua Steps. So yeah, this was a last minute change I made right before the game. And it ended up coming in clutch here because it ended up giving me a 5-0 sweep, putting me at 2-0 and +9 differential, which was a really good position to be in this early in the match, or this early in the league. So from there, we moved on to week 3. And week 3, I was playing against Eternal, who is someone I was mocking with during this league, so shout outs to them. But this week we actually were playing against each other, and they had a really scary Garchomp, Heatran, Rillaboom, Alola Ninetales, and Bundle team. So this was kind of an insane team to go against. Just a really good offensive core in Garchomp, Heatran, and Iron Bundle, with Rillaboom for terrain support, really making it hard to hit mons like Heatran with super effective Earthquake or ground coverage. So I didn't really have great checks to a lot of mons like Garchomp and Iron Bundle, but I made some makeshift checks out of a Max Def, Max HP Golden Go, and Hydro Pump from Choice Specs barely two-shot me, I think, or maybe didn't two-shot me after the leftovers. And I decided that this was probably the best check I was going to be able to get. Shadow Ball, Make It Rain, Nasty Plot, and Recover. Just the standard set again. As you can see, with the Nasty Plot, I believe I did one-shot the Iron Bundle with Make It Rain at +2. So I thought that would be a good set to bring here, as well as Recover, just so I can heal off damage in case the bundle hits me with like something like a Freeze Dry. I can get out of range of a following Hydro Pump potentially. Masquerada was my main offensive weapon here. Because of Flower Trick actually doesn't make contact, which meant that it didn't risk burns from things like Heatran, as well as Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet from Garchomp. So it looked really, really strong here just offensively. And with moves like Low Kick and Knockoff, I could hit different Pokemon on the team, like Heatran with Low Kick, and Knockoff was just generally a very good spammable move. And then U-Turn gives me nice momentum. I went enough speed to outspeed, I think, the fastest mon on the team besides Iron Bundle, which was Alola Ninetales maybe. And then I just put the rest in defense, just in case I need to switch into things like an Earthquake or like an Aqua Jet from Beartic. I also went Protective Pads Quackable because I think Quackable was kind of the best win condition for me in this game. If I could get rid of the Rillaboom or do a bit of damage to it, I could pretty much win with Quackable. And Protective Pads protected me from Flame Body Heatran, as well as Rough Skin or Rocky Helmet Chip from the Garchomp. So with Aqua Step, Close Combat, Ice Spin, or Rapid Spin, I hit pretty much everything. Just a standard max speed, max special, max attack. We are once again a choice set on Lottie, but a choice scarf this time with Luster Purge, Aura Sphere, Ice Beam, and Flip Turn, with max speed, max special attack. And then Pasho Berry Tinglu again. This is for Iron Bundle, so I can take any one hit from the Iron Bundle, get some solid damage off with Body Press, or get up Spike Stealth Rock. This was a big thing for me in this matchup because I really needed hazards to start and chipping down things, especially like the Garchomp and the Rillaboom, to allow my Quackable win condition to be able to clean up in the end game. And I was max Phys Dev for the Garchomp. And then once again, Assault Vest Regirock with Terra Ghost, and this was going to be my main or secondary bundle check in case the Golden Go got chipped or went down early. And as you can see, I was really, really scared of the Iron Bundle. I think it just put a lot of pressure into my team because, as you'll see kind of throughout the season, I don't really have great water resists. So every water offensive Pokemon is very, very threatening to my team. So max Def, max special attack, max HP Assault Vest, Regirock with Stone Edge, Earthquake, Ice Punch, and Brick Break for the Veil from Alola Ninetales. So we can get into the match, and we see actually some unconventional Pokemon, some Pokemon that I did not expect at all. This is a Tera Arbok here and a Tera Driftblim, along with the actual Hail Core of Ninetales Alola, Beartic, and then Rillaboom Heatran. So Rillaboom starts out with against my Tinglu. I decide that hazards are very important to this game, so I just eat the Wood Hammer, get up my rocks, try to put pressure. Seeing no bundle here, was kind of a good thing and a bad thing. Since I heavily overprepped for bundle, it kind of sucked that it wasn't here, because a lot of the sets didn't actually work without bundle. But at the same time, no bundle meant that I had a lot more offensive freedom with my pieces, especially things like Golden Go, which looks really, really good here. So it was kind of a curse and a blessing, I guess. We see a Woodhammer almost take out my Tinglu, but I do end up living the U-turn on 1% because Tinglu is a beast. And so I get off a layer of spikes, which is really nice. Ninetales comes in to set up Hail, and Baton passes back out to the Rillaboom, but you can see the Rillaboom is significantly chipped here. I decided not to Tera my Regirock here and go into my Golden Go because I think I'm expecting a Woodhammer or a Grass move, and I get predicted. Knockoff comes out. Golden Go does take a lot of damage, but decides to switch out on my double back into Tinglu, which works out perfectly into Heatran. Unfortunately, my Tinglu is a little bit too low now, so Heatran kind of just goes for the Flash Cannon and takes out the Tinglu. And chip heals all the way back to 94% with that leftovers. But now Quack comes in, and I get a free Aqua Step here on the Ninetales. After the Aqua Step, I do outspeed, so it is forced out into Arbok. I go for another Aqua Step as the Intimidate pops. You can see it doesn't do too much, does 27%. So now I go into Golden Go, just kind of sacking it off at this point, or expecting a Gunk Shot or some kind of poison move. But I do come in on a Pain Split, which I didn't know this mon got, and then die to the subsequent knockoff. Now Latios comes in for free. I am Scarf, so I do outspeed pretty much everything. Luster Purge is pretty much spammable here. And I get outplayed here by a Tera Dark Drifloon. I just did not expect this Pokemon at all, so I did not see the Tera Dark coming. As knockoff comes out, almost kills my Latios, but I do survive. But unfortunately, the Defog does come off, and all of my hazards go away. However, at this point, Quack can click Close Combat for free here. There's actually no switch-ins to it, and it pretty much OHKOs everything else. Now here I didn't want to take a Freeze Dry, so I decided to switch out as Veil comes up, unfortunately. But Luster Purge from Latios does kill even through Veil. And then I'm okay with sacking off my Latios here to the Bear Tick as it comes in. Now Regirock comes in. I know it'll eat pretty much every hit. And as you can see, it takes very little damage from this Ice Cold Spear, even though I am max Spadef and Assault Vest. I go for the Brick Break to get rid of the Veil, into Body Press, which should take out the Bear Tick, unless it Terras, which it is a Tera on this team, but the Drifblim already Terra'd. So at this point, Tera Body Press kind of hits everything else. I do go for Earthquake here as Grassy Terrain is gone. Does two-shot the Heatran even through my burn. Unfortunately, Protect does come out, so I take a little bit more chip from the burn. And then Bear Tick comes in on my Earthquake. So definitely very good switches on my opponent's part. We see an Icicle Spear come out, and only get a 2-hit as I miss a Stone Edge. So a bit of an unfortunate sequence there for both of us. I go for another Stone Edge as Drifloon comes in. Okay, I had a bit of a hiccup with the recording for some reason, but we're back now. And the Drifblim switched in on my Stone Edge, didn't take any damage, went for the Strength Sap. Because of Clear Body, I don't actually lose any stats here, which means that the Strength Sap always heals the Drifblim back up to full, which is really unfortunate. I actually forgot on this set I didn't pack Body Press, which really sucked, because at this point, Body Press would have been really nice to be able to spam here, so I was kind of stuck just trying to sack off my Regirock because it was pretty useless here. Until I got into Quack, and then Close Combat takes out the Drifblim from full. Bear Tick is slower, also dies to Close Combat. Heatran also dies at this point to Aqua Step or Close Combat. And yeah, I mean, I'm at +1 on Protective Pad, so no chance of burn. And then the Bear Tick will die from here because the Tera already happened. So yeah, once again, Quack cleans up another game. This one is actually just insane. It's very much an MVP for me in this early season time. But we end up with a nice 2-0 victory. We are 3-0 now, going into week 4, which is really nice. Week 4, we're playing against Arquidan, and we have a Great Tusk, Baxcalibur, Galarian, Slowking team. Kind of an insane team. With triple dragon actually, Hydreigon, as well as Gudra and Aloe for the physical defense. And then Ogerpon Hearthflame as well with a Tera Lilligant here. So definitely have a really scary team and a lot of threats to prep for, as well as an insane defensive backbone with Aloe and Galarian Slowking providing a good regenerator core. So into this matchup, we're bringing a Choice Specs Latios once again. Team is slow, so we bring a Choice Specs Latios set. We have Draco Meteor, Psyshock, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam. Psyshock, we're running Psyshock over Luster Purge here because of specifically the Galarian Slowking, which is obviously a great check to Latios otherwise, but Psyshock with specs does actually two-shot a Spadef Galarian Slowking. So that was the reason why we were running that. And then we have a Black Glasses Meowscarada. Just on endgame, this looks really, really strong. Hits Great Tusk with Black Glasses. Also does a lot of damage to mons like the Gudra and Galarian Slowking. I believe I Oko Galarian Slowking with Black Glasses. I didn't really need another option. And since I had both another item, so since I had both Knockoff and Sucker Punch to hit potential Scarfers and things like that, I thought Black Glasses might just be pretty good in order to boost the power of those two moves. And then we have Low Kick, mostly just for the Baxcalibur. I believe it Oko's Baxcalibur from full, so that was very important, as well as the Hydreigon, which does resist the rest of my moves. It also Oko's that as well. But yeah, didn't need much speed because this was a slower team. And then we have a Spadef Tinglu. This is for the Hydreigon, and as well as a potentially especially offensive Gudra. I also take hits decently well from the Gardevoir, which is really nice. We are Earthquake, Body Press, Heavy Slam for the Gardevoir, as well as like a potential Terra Fairy Lilligant. And then we are Spikes, because Spikes look really good here. A lot better than Rocks. Even with the Great Tusk doesn't have great opportunities to spin on this team. So I thought Spikes could be really nice to start chipping down some of the mons. Yeah, and then Body Press so I can hit backs decently hard, as well as the Hydreigon mainly, since Heavy Slam also hits backs. The next spawn is Fezandipity. We have a Shukaberry Fez here for Great Tusk. We have Poison Jab, Play Rough, Roost, and U-Turn. This also helps me blanket check Baxcalibur with Earthquake. And then we are max speed actually this week, specifically for the Hydreigon, since we do one-shot it with Play Rough, and then outspeed it as well, with max HP and some defensive investment. And then we also have a Rocky Helmet Quack. This is because in Mox, a Choice Banded Baxcalibur was kind of destroying me. And shout out Eternal for bringing that and showing me how strong that was. So in order to kind of alleviate pressure from that, I decided to bring a Quackavolt with Rocky Helmet. And we are Low Kick in order to Oko it once again. And then Aqua Step, Roost, and Rapid Spin with max HP, max defense, actually. So we may not see a Quack Sweep this time. And then we are a Regirock, Terra Ghost, also for the Baxcalibur, but also a great spin blocker for the Tusk. And we are Leftovers with Body Press, Ice Punch, Thunder Wave, and Stealth Rock, max HP, max defense. But yeah, get into our Week 4 battle. So we lead off Fezandipity into Great Tusk. Obviously a good lead for us. We go for a U-turn as the Great Tusk switches out. We go into Meowscarada, get a free knockoff off. Hits the Tusk, kind of, not really hard. We find out it's Assault Vest, which is good to know for us. Close Combat comes out from the Great Tusk, and Quackavolt comes in with Rock Helmet. I get off a Roost as the Slowking comes in. I go into Fezandipity on a potential attack. Gets up a Future Sight. I decide to U-turn out into Tinglu because of the Future Sight. As it chilies, we see a switch into Alomomola. I get up Spikes on a switch in because I don't see how this really threatens me. I get up Spikes as it Ice Beams me. I go for the Earthquake as it gets up a Wish. I decide to get up another Spikes because I see he's dedicated to staying in, but on this turn he does go for Flip Turn. But I do have 2 Spikes now, which is really nice. Rapid Spin is going to come off here. Obviously, Great Tusk gets healed by the Wish, which really sucks, but I decided to go into Quack here. In case the close combat comes out, I don't want to risk Regirock's health yet because it's so important. And I get it right. Quack comes in the close combat. I go for a Roost as Hydreigon comes in. Slowking doubles in on my Ting Lu. And I am in a good position here to just go for an Earthquake. Chilly Reception comes out, but the Slowking has been brought pretty low. Ogre Pun comes out here. This mod is definitely a problem. I don't really have a great check to it, but I do have 8 Pheasantipity that can eat 1. And so I end up getting it right, get into a play rough. So now I get a free U-turn off or a Poison Jab. Get off a Poison on the Alomola, which is really nice. I go for a U-turn. Go into Latios on the flip turn, but he ends up getting it right and gets an Ice Beam on me, but it doesn't really do much damage because this is an Aloe. And from here, Latios just kind of clicks buttons. Draco pretty much picks up a kill because of the Slowking being chipped down and the 2 spikes on the field. So Aloe decides to get sacked here. Now Lilligant comes in. It can set up here with Tera Fairy Quiver Dance. However, I do have a Pheasantipity that forces it out with Poison Jab. Main reason why I was physical in this matchup is because of that Quiver Dancing Lilligant. We get U-turn off into the Slowking. The Slowking does reveal to be Slack Off, but Spec Side Shot comes out here, and you can see it does 61%. So I do actually 1v1 this. So I anticipate a switch out here, but instead we see a Chilly Reception, which I didn't expect at all. But the Lilligant comes back out here on my Pheasantipity and then goes back into Slowking. So I guess that was just to get more health back on the Slowking by baiting in the Poison Jab. So that makes sense. We see a Future Sight come out as my Ting Lu comes in to absorb it. I believe I go for an Earthquake here. Yeah, I just go for an Earthquake here, do a bunch of damage to this. Now, the issue here is that I can't go into Pheasantipity because the Future Sight is in the air, so if I do, I will lose my Pheasantipity. But I also can't go into Regirock because I don't want to take Future Sight into whatever attack, potentially like a Horn Leech or a Ivy Cudgel or something like that from this. So I do decide just to stay in here and go for an Earthquake. I take barely any damage from a Play Rough, go for Earthquake, take the Future Sight, take out the Ogre Pawn, get some health back. So in a really good spot here, we're at 6 mons still versus the 4. Close Combat comes out again from the Great Tusk. And my Quackable comes in. I believe at this point I realized that the Tusk was either banded or scarfed. Probably banded, probably scarfed considering that damage, but it was definitely choice in some way, which is why I was going into Quack so recklessly. But here we do see a knockoff crit, but the knockoff crit didn't matter because of the black glasses. I had actually been black glasses so that I could take out the Slowking in one hit, but Future Sight doesn't pop because I am a dark type. I can Flower Trick and take out the Tusk, which is really nice. So it looks like it wasn't scarfed. So maybe it was banded. And Quack is just very tanky. But now the Hydreigon comes in. I think I missed a couple turns. Yeah, Hydreigon comes in. I go into my Ting Lu, which is my Hydreigon check. U-turn comes out. Lilligant comes back in, tries to set up on me because it believes it forces me out, but I know I'm max PDEF. I can take pretty much any hit this wants to go for. I just outcoat with a Heavy Slam. And then from here, Ting Lu just wins. I just click Body Press a couple times, and the Hydreigon should die. Yeah, I absolutely chew the Draco Meteor. Go for Body Press, does 55%. And yeah, this can't do any kind of damage to me. Draco Meteor miss doesn't really matter. Body Press comes out. And I do get a nice 6-0, putting me at 4-0 for the season with quite a bit of diff, which is really nice. And so into week 5, we go. And week 5, we are going against Lazy Banana. And Lazy Banana has a very scary Sun team with like Slitherwing and Roaring Moon, Ninetales is a Sunsetter, and mons like this Azelf, as well as a Tera Roadhump Fan and Tera Victory Bell. So you can see both Tera Captains are here. Very scary squad. I didn't have any Slytherin checks, so that was the main thing my team was built to counter. So if you see a lot of interesting choices, that's mainly what those were. The first mon we are bringing is a Pheasantipity with Black Sludge, Poison Jab, Play Rough, Roost, and U-turn. We are unfortunately physical again, but we are SPDF this week for mons like the Raging Bolt is the big one, as well as Sylveon. And we're physical so that we can beat Combine Sylveon as well as Combine Raging Bolt. We are a Choice Scarfed Meowscarada actually this week, and this is so that we can outspeed all the potentially booster speed mons, including Roaring Moon. as well as Slithering. Knockoff, low kick, play rough hits pretty much everything, and then trick, so we can cripple something annoying like the Fortress or the Sylveon or something like that. And then we have a Boots Thunderous. We are Weather Ball, actually, in order to hit the Slitherwing, which is really nice. But also just gives us a fire type coverage move into things like an Extra Drill, which is really nice, which is on this team. And then Thunderbolt, Sludge Wave, obviously Extra Drill is immune to those two, but otherwise it hits pretty much everything on the team. And then U-Turn for Momentum. We are Boots, so we don't take rocks damage. And then we have a Rocky Helmet Quack this week. Once again, defensive Quack. This is a Slitherwing check, kind of, not really in the sun. It does still get 2-shot by close combat, but it does take the bug moves on decently well with Roost, and Rapid Spin gives me a nice hazard control option for the Fortress as well, which is nice. And then U-Turn for Momentum. I decided not to go Flip Turn. I think pretty much just because it hits Roaring Moon harder, it hits Azelf harder, and then also it's just weak in the sun. So, yeah, and then we have a max defense, max HP Regirock, and I am going Tera Fighting this week, specifically for the Roaring Moon Extra Drill. Also nice for the Slithering. Obviously, Tera Ghost was much better for the Slithering, but I kind of needed this to be a solid Extra Drill and Roaring Moon check, and if I'm Tera Ghost, I don't check the Roaring Moon, so... we are Body Press, Fire Punch, Rest Talk, actually, because we sometimes need to recover some of our health because we are so pressured this game. I really needed some recovery, and I didn't want to be passive and allow Roaring Moon to Dragon Dance on me if I do have to click Rest at some point. But yeah, last one we have is a Spadef Tinglu, Earthquake, Throat Chop, Whirlwind, Stealth Rock, pretty standard set. Rocks as well as Whirlwind to try and put some chip into things and stop things from being able to set up. But yeah, so that's going to be our Week 5 team. So into the Sun team, we see that we don't have to face Sun, which is really nice. We also don't see Slitherwing, which is also incredible for me. So we lead off with the Tinglu. Rocks look really good in this game, so I just want to get my rocks off immediately. We go for the Stealth Rock. We take a Leaf Storm pretty well, honestly, but you can see this Victory Bell is kind of looking like a problem. I do go into Pheasantipity on Sludge Bomb, take a pretty decent amount, and then you turn out on the Extra Drill. Quack comes in now for free, so I prevent the spin from Extra Drill. I go for Close Combat, does 38 to Victory Bell. I think, okay, I'm tripping down the Victory Bell. Once the Victory Bell gets tripped down, I think one of our big threats will be gone. But then Victory Bell reveals to be Strength Sap, and I didn't know that it got Strength Sap. So this is going to be kind of an issue because I actually can't really take down this Victory Bell. So I'm going to have to really figure out how to play around it. So I go for another U-turn on the Extra Drill. You're going to see I do a lot of U-turning with Fez because every time I come in with Fez, Extra Drill can actually come in and threaten my team. But luckily here we get off a big terrifying body press as Extra Drill stays in on my Regirock and I get rid of it. Now Azelf comes out, this mount is a problem. My Tinglu is predicted. Dazzling Game comes out. Since I took so much chip from the beginning of the Leaf Storm, Victory Bell comes back out and now can threaten me with another Leaf Storm. So I do switch out. But Strength Sap comes out, Victory Bell comes back to full. But I go with Thunderous this time because expecting that Strength Sap. So I can get off a strong Sludge Wave. It does a lot to the Azelf. Azelf did reveal to be Life Orb earlier, so I do get one more hit on it. I really should have just gone Tinglu. At this point, 42% doesn't really do too much. It was my main Spadef check anyways. So I really shouldn't have gone Pheasantipity since Pheasantipity was still really useful for things like the Roaring Moon, as well as the Cloister and the Rotom Fan. It also was a nice pivot into Victory Bell. I didn't really have any other pivot into Victory Bell. So I really shouldn't have done this, but I ended up sacking off the Pheasantipity as the Psyshock came out. No reason to predict there, but I ended up doing it and got punished. However, now I go into Meowscarada, and then I missed the Play Rough, which is really unfortunate because I know Play Rough Okos, and if I had hit that, then this Roaring Moon would not be a threat. However, luckily, Roaring Moon does, in fact, Dragon Dance. So now I get another chance because I am Choice Scarf. And I miss again. But I live the Earthquake. So now I have another chance, but the Roaring Moon now switches out and Victory Bell comes in for free. And now the Roaring Moon is still there. It's still a threat. And I had 2 chances to kill it and Meow missed Play Rough. And this is why I don't run Physical Fez or Play Rough on Meow pretty much the rest of the season. I don't enjoy missing these 90% moves and getting put into bad positions like this. But regardless, now we go Thunderous on the victory bell. It's my only check now, unfortunately, so I do have to go in Thunderous here. I go for a U-turn. I get out-predicted. He does stay in, so I now have to sack off my Tinglu. But he ends up going for Sleep Powder, so my Tinglu is now Sleep Fodder. So now I go back into Thunderous on the Leaf Storm. Take a solid amount, honestly. But now I can threaten off a strong Thunderbolt. And Strength Sap comes out. Victory Bow goes back to full. Now I go for Sludge Wave because it does 57%. Sludge Realm comes out, does a lot of damage. Also gets a poison on me. So this was a really very lucky game for me. Clearly, I definitely got super lucky here. But Rotom Fan comes out. I go for the Thunderbolt. My Thundurus will die to poison at the end of this turn, so I don't really see a reason to keep it. It is an interesting Wiki Berry set. Meow comes out now, though, and I do finally hit a Play Rough. But unfortunately, it doesn't kill the Rotom. So, yeah, the Rotom does stay alive, but it does also die to rocks the next time it comes in. But I do still have the Regirock anyways for the Roaring Moon, so it's not that big of a deal here because I can just go for Body Press. Rotom dies to switch in, and then Cloyster can never break past the Regirock. And as you can see, like Icicle Spear does like no damage to Regirock, even with the crit and hitting 5 times, and then Body Press just blows it up. And so yeah, even despite kind of the extreme unluckiness here, we did end up with a 3-0 win, and we are still 5-0, so still undefeated, still in a great spot. And as you can see, Regirock has come to every single game and put in so much work every game. So Regirock, my MVP for sure. But with that, yeah, we can move on to week 6. And so week 6, for context, the opponent that we were playing was Corn, and Corn actually was the other undefeated player so far. He was also 5-0 at this point. And so me and him both realized that we were both locked for playoffs. It was very likely that we would play each other again in playoffs. And so we decided, let's do a meme battle. Let's have some fun. And we can save some of our techs for when we eventually hopefully play in the playoffs against each other. So with that context in mind, I built this very interesting team. We have a beat up Hex Pheasantipity with Toxic Chain. Each hit on beat up actually has a 30% chance of poisoning. And since beat up can hit up to 6 times, it almost guarantees hitting the poison, which Hex boosted by Spell Tag and doubled in power with the Toxic Chain can do a solid amount of damage, especially with max special attack. I'm also Roost and Nasty Plot in order to boost past things and just make my Hex a bit stronger, since Hex is kind of a weak move. And it's non-stab. And Pheasantipity has 70 base special attack. So we're also running a Choice Specs Meowscarada, and Meowscarada gets 0 coverage on the special side. So we are Shadow Ball, Pollen Puff, Power Gem with U-Turn. We are a Spicy Regirock with Power Herb, Meteor Beam. Charge Beam to keep setting up my special attack, and because Beam, and then we have Hyper Beam as a nuke with Earth Power just to hit like things like Iron Hands. But max special attack, a bit of speed to outspeed, I believe, Iron Hands. And yeah, and then this was the I actually ended up having a extra point left over, and so I picked up a Gabite. And I wanted to bring it because Garchomp is my favorite Pokemon. And so I wanted to bring Gabite to at least one game the entire season. So this ended up being that game. I have a budget Gabite here, Gabite at home, Garchomp at home, as you can see, with Swords Dance, Scale Shot, Earthquake, Iron Head, Eviolite, as well as a solid amount of attack investment. Then I have this really cool Jolteon set. And actually, this was the week that I decided to make some transactions. So originally, when I was planning out my draft, instead of Thundurus Therian, I wanted to pick up Jolteon as a electric type because I thought it would be a really great Tera Captain, and it's also really fast at 130 base speed, so I really wanted a bit of a faster team. And so I finally decided I'm going to drop the Thundurus as well as the Chinchino, which I didn't bring to a single match, and it just felt horrible in every single match, as well as the Vespiquen, so I could have the points to pick up Jolteon and another 14-point Pokemon, which ended up being Volcarona. Now, if I had decided to do this about a day earlier, I would have been able to pick up a 14-point Terapagos, which would have been kind of insane, especially since it's a secondary removal option, since I only had Quackable, and I was dropping Chinchino, which was my other removal option. But Unfortunately, I was a bit too slow with it. So I ended up picking up Jolteon and Volcarona for my transactions. So now I was able to bring this really cool agility Electro Ball set. So Electro Ball, it has more power the faster you are than the target. And with agility and Jolteon's already insane speed, you just outspeed pretty much everything. And then I have Calm Mind, stored power, just as a secondary attack. Finally, I wanted to bring a Lum Berry Dragon Dance physical Latios because it actually has a usable physical move pool, gets Dragon Dance, and has a base 90 attack, which is not horrible. It's definitely not great, but it's definitely usable. And we have Lum Berry to prevent any status. So yeah. And we can see Corn's team has this Iron Hands and Superior, and just keep in mind this is a bit of a meme game, so we are going to see some absolute craziness happen here. So I lead off with my beat up Pheasantipity, try and get some poisons off. I obviously hit into a Registeel, which can't be poisoned, so I don't get any poisons, but I get a solid amount of chip on this Registeel. I go into Gabite here to try and set up on this Registeel. Registeel actually ends up being sub-Focus Sponge, which is absolutely insane. So it does 41% to my Gabite, and takes Rough Skin as I go for an Earthquake, so I don't get subbed on again. Trevenant comes in here, Terra Fairies, sets up Grassy Terrain for itself, which is really cool. Now Registeel gets some free recovery as I go for the Hex. And now I'm going to go back into Gabite because I don't want it to sub, but it's going to explode and my Gabite will sadly go to bed. Now Pheasantipity comes back out. As Rotom comes out, it goes for the charge with the Grassy Seed, and I go for a beat up, trying to get another status. And we do. We get a Toxic Chain. So we do a lot of damage to the Rotom. It is +1 defense, +1 special defense right now, but it does miss the Charge Beam, and I go for Hex, and it does blow up because it's super effective and toxic, and yeah. And then we are going to go into the Jolteon on the Tentacruel. Now this Tentacruel is Supersonic Blunder Palsy, which is really cool. Unfortunately, Supersonic is a banned move, but since it was a meme match anyways, we ended up letting it slide. And then I was able to get my agility off on the Gunk Shot miss, go for the Electro Ball, and it didn't even two-shot the Tentacruel. But I decided to Tera Electric because Jolteon was a Tera Captain. I was Tera Electric, Ice, and Fairy, I think. Or no, Ice and Grass, maybe. But yeah, now Electro Ball does get a kill on both the Tentacruel and the Trevenant, which is really nice. But Superior does come in here, ends up revealing Scale Shot. And so it is a physical set with the Grassy Terrain again. But my Specs Meowscarada can Pollen Puff and absolutely destroy it. Now we are up 4-0 against this Iron Hands, which does end up getting its booster speed, but Quark Drive, and it goes for Belly Drum. And now I'm actually kind of in a bad spot. I can actually get reverse swept by this because my Regirock is not defensive because it is that Meteor Beam set. We do get Stopping Tantrum. I go for the beat up, which is like a 70% chance to poison, and I don't get it. If I had gotten it, I definitely would have been able to probably stall this out, but unfortunately, I don't get the Toxic Chain here, so I go into Latios, try to get some chip off, do a decent amount of damage, put the Iron Hands kind of low, but now I only have this Regirock left, which is special. I go for Hyper Beam, get O-Code by the Iron Hands, it goes all the way back to full. Meowscarada comes in. I don't really have anything to hit this thing. Shadow Ball is my strongest move. Does 32%, so potentially after the I do get a predict on the Shadow Ball into Drain Punch, but yeah, it's just not enough. If I had the Toxic, I think I actually would have been able to win this, but unfortunately we do lose, and we end up with our first loss of the season. So I am now 5-1. But yeah, with that, we're gonna jump into Game 7, and Game 7 is actually a game against a replacement, and we have. We're playing against Alley Cat 1234 here, and the team that I'm bringing this week is gonna have our Jolteon. So the team we're facing has threats like Greninja and Cinderace, as well as an Ursaluna, an Ogerpon Wellspring, and then we have Terra Vikavolt, Bronzong, and Crabominable. So I decided to bring a Calm Mind Thunderbolt Tera Blast Ice, Volt Switch, Calm Mind Heavy Duty Boots Jolteon in its debut. We have a Rocky Helmet Pheasantipity with Moonblast, Sludge Bomb, Roost, and U-Turn, Max Fizdef for the mons like the Ogerpon as well as the Cinderace. We have a Choice Scarf Meowscarada because I outspeed all the Protein mons on the opponent's team. And we have Flower Trick, Knockoff, Play Rough, and U-Turn. We are Assault Vest Quack this week, specifically for potentially a special Regidrago, as well as a Glimmora, if it is offensive. We are Aqua Step, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Knock. Pretty much I wanted to go 4 attacks on this anyway, so I decided might as well put a Assault Vest on. I don't really have any other item that I want on it. We are Max Fizdef, Regirock, Terraghost. This is going to be my main Ursaluna check. It can get Crunch, but it still doesn't do that much damage, honestly, even with Guts Boost and everything. Regirock is still a defensive beast. So we see Body Press, Tera Blast, Stone Edge, and Rest here. And then finally we have the debut of Volcarona. We have a Heavy Duty Boots, Fiery Dance, Bug Buzz, Giga Drain, and Quiver Dance set with max speed, almost max speed, max special attack. So unfortunately, I didn't have calcs available for this match, so I definitely made a few misplays just because of that. But yeah, we're gonna see a lead off of Quack versus Glimmora. So I go for Aqua Step initially as it Mortal Spins and poisons me, and then I go for another Aqua Step here, or no, I go for U-Turn here, predicting the Ogerpon to switch in. Go Pheasantipity to absorb the T-Spike, and also because it is good into the Ogerpon. I go for a Sludge Bomb, get a Poison off on the Guts Ursaluna, which really sucks, but Ursaluna was probably Flame Orb anyways, so Poison is perfectly fine here. We do see it is a bulk upset. I go into my Regirock, I get my Tera off, take 49% from a +1 Earthquake from this Ursaluna, even though I'm max defense Regirock, which is insane. But Body Press does a significant amount. Body Press comes in as the Mimikyu comes out. It does go for the Swords Dance, and I decided to go for Tera Blast Ghost to break its disguise just because I don't really have a great switch and I don't want to let it get a free Swords Dance. And then I just end up having to sack off my Regirock, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. It didn't really switch into Ursaluna anymore anyways, so now I can go into my Scarf Meowscarada Revenge with a Scarf Knockoff. It does 54% to this Vikavolt, which is really nice, but of course, now that the item is knocked off, I don't actually KO, so I go into Jolteon. I Tera Blast Raw here because I can't Tera since I already used my Tera on Regirock, but that into Volt Switch does allow me to take it out. Now, because my Meow is Scarfed, even though I am affected by Sticky Web, it's still okay. I still outspeed pretty much everything on the team. Granted, it's not given that it's not Scarfed. I don't know if the Cinderace is Scarfed, so I decide not to risk it, and I go into my Pheasantipity as he U-turns. Rocky Helmet Chip does a nice chunk to it. Ivy Cudgel comes out from the Ogerpon as I go for Sludge Bomb, take it out, but I am really close to being in Pyro Ball range from Cinderace, so I decided to go for a Roost. One Roost just to stall it out and just to see what it does, and then it ends up getting a crit here. Which really sucked because if it didn't get a crit here, I think I would have been able to get enough chip on this that Meow just cleaned up its Scarf knockoff. At this range, Mimikyu and Ursaluna both died from Scarf knockoff. So the only mon that actually had the ability to live one knockoff was this Cinderace. And so because the Cinderace could still live, I just needed to get a bit of chip off with Pheasantipity. So instead of roosting there, if I had just Sludge Bombed, I would have pretty much won on the spot. But unfortunately, because of this crit, I am put in a really unfortunate spot. I didn't expect the Sucker Punch, so I go into Jolteon and end up sacking it off. So now I'm forced to go into Meow and Play Rough, which would have taken out the Tera Cinderace, but unfortunately, he does go into Mimikyu and sacks it off. So the Cinderace is still out of range of my Scarf knockoff, and I have to sack off the Quack to the Ursaluna double, which is a really good Ursaluna double there. Volcarona comes out now, though, and I can Giga Drain, and then I do die to a Pyro Ball here. Or I don't die to a Pyro Ball, and that is super clutch because it lets me get off the required chip that I need on the Cinderace, and then Meow comes out and can just guaranteed kill with a knockoff here. And yeah, that does wrap up the entire game, and I end up with a 1-0 victory, very close game, and I am 6-1 now, with it being week 7. So next week is the last week of the regular season. I'm playing against this team with a Iron Valiant, Keldeo, and Zapdos. Very, very scary team, as well as King Gambit. And I don't really have great checks to a lot of these Pokemon, but we were able to cook up kind of an interesting squad here. We have a Colbur Berry, Golden Go, Shadow Ball, Make It Rain, Thunderbolt, and Nasty Plot. Colbur Berry is for Sucker Punch on King Gambit, potentially, if that ever comes up, and I didn't really need another item there. It also helps with knockoff against Valiant because this was my Valiant check. It does resist both Sabs, and the knockoff obviously gets softened up by the Colbur. We have an Assault Vest Tinglu. Just generally does good. Is a good check to Zapdos. Can take a hit or two from Keldeo. But also is physically defensive in case Valiant wants to be a physical set. Or King Gambit is obviously a big threat, and it's not something to be taken lightly. So this does help out against the King Gambit, which is what Body Press is for. We are just 4 attacks because we are Assault Vest, Throat Chop, Earthquake, Heavy Slam for the Valiant. We are also Assault Vest on Regirock. This time we are max attack, so that we can do a significant damage to different Pokemon with things like Body Press and Heavy Slam. I believe Heavy Slam Okos with Valiant if I max attack Adamant, which is the reason why I went it. And then we are Explosion last, just for last ditch effort. We can do a bunch of damage, but we are also a Heavy Duty Boots Jolteon with Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, Volt Switch, and Calm Mindset again, with a decent amount of speed and some HP investment. We have a mixed defensive Pheasantipity, Sludge Bomb, Heat Wave, Roost, and U-Turn. And last we have a Heavy Duty Boots, Fiery Dance, Giga Drain, Psychic, and Quiver Dance Volcarona once again. So that is the squad we're bringing, and we are going to jump into the Week 8 battle. So we see Regirock lead into Keldeo, really bad lead for me, so I have him forced into the Golden Go on the flip turn. So we can assume that it's probably Scarfed if it has a flip turn. Zapdos come out. I forget that Zapdos gets Heat Wave, so I decide to stay in, take a bunch of chip on my Golden Go, so now I'm kind of not in a good spot for the Valiant. But I decide now to switch out into Tinglu, at least make a good play here, block the Volt Switch, and go for the Throat Chop into Toucannon. It takes quite a bit of damage, but now it gets a free U-turn off as I switch into Fez. Dragalge comes out on my Pheasantipity. I decide to U-turn out on Dragalge, go directly into Golden Go. I'm pretty much just sacking it off at this point, but also it's immune to the Sludge Bomb in case he decides to go for it, and then I can get off a strong Make It Rain. Doesn't do any kind of damage, and I do die to the flip turn. But at least now I get some momentum as Keldeo comes in on my Jolteon. I go for a Thunderbolt into a Volt Switch, do no damage to this Dragalge. It looks to be AV since it's taking absolutely nothing. Flip turn out on my Tinglu. Keldeo comes back in. I still don't have any answers for this Keldeo, so I decide to trade Earthquake damage on the Keldeo for my Tinglu. I am looking really, really weak to Valiant at this point. I only have my Regirock, so I need to be really careful about that. But I do go into Jolteon to threaten it out, and I go into Regirock here, get my Tera off so that I can potentially take on Keldeo a little bit better, and then go for Ice Punch here. Take out the Dragalge. I was some speed, I think. Or no, I think I just naturally outsped the Dragalge, and then luckily he goes for Calm Mind on Valiant, and that allows me to get off a nice Heavy Slam with Oko the Valiant, and then now I get to explode on the Keldeo. So in one fell swoop, one Regirock took out a Dragalge, a Keldeo, and an Iron Valiant. So absolutely insane showing for Regirock. 100% MVP here in this battle. Took out 3 of the biggest threats for my entire team. And now Jolteon pretty much just cleans up here. I just need a bit more chip on the King Gambit, and then I should be able to kind of just win with Jolteon. So I go into Volcarona. Unfortunately, Zapdos does come out, so I get it wrong here. I do get confused on the Hurricane as I pivot into the Jolteon there, so unfortunately, I do have to switch out again. I go into Pheasantipity. I go for a Sludge Bomb, try to get a Poison. I don't get Poison or Toxic Chain, even though it's a 60% chance. So a bit unfortunate, but here I decided to go for a U-turn. Assuming the King Gambit was going to come in. I go into Volcarona here so I can threaten Quiver Dance so he doesn't Sucker Punch, and I can get off the Fiery Dance damage, which is really nice. He does also get burned, which is perfect for me because now Sucker Punch does not actually Oko my Jolteon from Flame Body, but I do go into Pheasantipity, go for Heat Wave. He sacks off the King Gambit because it is burned now. Toucanon comes out. Tera rocks here. Rock Blast does not KO me, which means I get some solid damage off with Sludge Bomb and get a poison. The second Rock Blast does kill me, but unfortunately for my opponent at this point, Jolteon does kind of clean up. Thunderbolt kills the Toucanon. Zapdos cannot kill me with one hit because I have enough HP left, and I do two-shot it. However, at this point, I didn't want the Zapdos to roost on me, because if it did roost here on my Thunderbolt, then I could potentially not get the roll and two-shot it. So basically what I decided is that if I Calm Mind, I can take any two hits. So even if they roost here, after one Calm Mind, I do two-shot guaranteed. And you do see that they do roost here, but my Thunderbolt does over half because of my Calm Mind. And yeah, I take 28% from the Heat Wave. So from there, I end up with a guaranteed 1-0 victory, and we end up going 7-1 for the regular season. Amazing showing for our Regirock team. And yeah, puts us in a great spot going to playoffs. We end up second seed, only behind Korn, who ended up going fully undefeated the whole season. So he has an 8-0 record. And this league basically allows you to, the first, second, third, and fourth seed, to pretty much pick their opponents for the playoffs, or picks their first round opponent. So I ended up picking to actually rematch or go against someone who I hadn't gone against before, since the other choices that I had were actually rematches. So my first opponent was actually T-Rod, who has a Gouging Fire, Primarina, Corviknight, and Crocodile team, with a Mew as well, Hitmonlee, and a bunch of other cool Pokemon like Eel, Electros, Lycanroc Midday, Slacking. So really very scary team, a lot of versatile threats. And the team we ended up bringing to this quarterfinals match is an Assault Vest Jolteon for the Primarina. I had no switch-ins to the Primarina. It was actually the most threatening mon for my entire team. So the Jolteon kind of helped with that. Could take like 2 hits from the Primarina and obviously threatens it with Thunderbolts and Tera Blast Grass as well if I get off the Tera. However, my main Tera target this game was, in fact, the Regirock. This is the main Gouging Fire check, but also the Crocodile check, and Lycanroc Midday check. It pretty much eats hits from all of them. Also beats the Hitmonlee. Body Pressure blows all of them up, and Thunder Punch, Thunder Wave helps cripple them. Thunder Punch is for the Corviknight. And then Stealth Rock is really nice just to have hazards here. And we are max defense. We take absolutely nothing from Gouging Fire, which is really nice. We also have a Choice Scarf from Meowscarada with Flower Trick, Knockoff, Triple Axle, and U-Turn. Just generally a very typical Meowscarada set with Triple Axle in order to hit the Amoonguss. And this kind of hits pretty much everything. It threatens the Crook with Flower Trick, threatens the Mew with Knockoff, U-Turn for nice momentum. We have a Payapa Quackable, and it's Payapa for the Mew because the Mew was one of the big threats on this team, something I didn't really have great answers for. So I wanted to be able to stop a Hazards lead Mew, for example, by leading off with Quack, taking a Psychic with my Payapa, going for a Taunt, and then that allows the Mew, that keeps the Mew from being able to get up Hazards. And then I can just sack off my Quack there, or potentially use it later to Aqua Step Mew and get some chip on it. And then eat my Payapa to live any hit, and then maybe try and two-shot it with Aqua Step if it has taken some chip before. We also have a Golden Go, and this is another kind of Prim switch-in-ish. I mean, it's a Moonblast resist at least, but we are max HP, some special attack with Modest Nature, and some speed. I believe enough speed to outspeed Prim. Yeah, Prim is at 240. So we are Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, Make It Rain, Recover. This is so that in case we face a Calm Mind Prim, Nasty Plot does out heal it, and then Make It Rain kind of blows it up. And then finally we have a Fizdef Tinglu. Another check for Gouging Fire and Crocodile, as well as potentially Dragon Dance Mew. Earthquake, Throat Chop, Spikes, and Whirlwind. My real game plan this matchup was pretty much to get up a bunch of hazards, try whirlwinding them out, and eventually wear them down. And that's kind of just the point of the entire team, right? We haven't been bringing Latios because it's been kind of not great into the matchups, but we're just kind of going a slow, more defensive approach here with Meowscarada able to clean up and Jolteon in the end game. So we lead off Quack here to prevent any kind of hazard leads from Mew. We get off an Aqua Step as we see a Crook come out, so Primarina comes in, takes a bit of chip. We go Jolteon because it is my main Prim check. as it subs on me, I realize that it's sub Draining Kiss at this point. I go for the Thunderbolt as it gets up a Combine. I decide to Volt Switch out here. I don't want to stay in and let this Prim kind of set up for free. I go into Golden Go so that now I can try a Nasty Paw alongside it. It does go for the Draining Kiss, good prediction. It does get some health back. I do go for the Nasty Paw here so that I can kill it with Make It Rain. Hyper Voice does a bunch of damage because it is Liquid Voice. And then I go for Make It Rain and take out the Prim here. And trading my Golden Go for the Prim, perfectly good because the Prim was the biggest threat to my entire team, and my Golden Go is still fairly healthy and can actually be a little bit more useful in the late game. So I do switch out into the Ting Lu. Also prevents any Dragon Dance shenanigans from you. We go for a Throat Chop here. Do solid amount of damage to the Corviknight as it reveals to be Screen's Corviknight, which is really interesting. So I get up a Spike here. Goes for the Brave Bird. I decided to get up another Spike. My thought process here was that if it tries to go for Defog, it would get rid of its own screen. But it turns out that that's actually not how that interaction works. So I was a bit mistaken there. So you can see it here. I go into Regirock, go for a Stealth Rock as the Corviknight defogs and the screen stays up. So I was a bit mistaken there, but it's okay because I still get up my rocks. And then on the defog, I decided to go into Corviknight, into Golden Go to block it, which was really nice. And then I can go for a Shadow Ball here, just get some solid chip on this Wish Cache. And my thought process was that this Golden Go, it outsped the Prim, so it should outspeed this Wish Cache. They have the same speed tier, but it reveals to actually be Scarfed Wish Cache and takes out my Golden Go, which really sucks because now I don't have a great Corviknight switch in or a defog blocker. So as you can see, the Corviknight does come in immediately on my Meowscarada. I go for the knockoff. Now it gets a free defog off, which kind of sucks in terms of my hazard game, but it does at least let me get in my Jolteon for free. And then here, I go for the Alluring Voice because I'm expecting the Crook to come in. It also is just a nice mid-ground into this team. So I get to go for the Alluring Voice. And now the Crook comes in. I decided to Terra Grass, actually. Even though I was going to Terra Ghost the Regirock, I decided here that it's more worth it for me to get rid of this Crocodile. So I Terra Grass, Terra Blast it. And then I Thunderbolt this Corviknight down. Now there's only 2 Mons left. Hitmonlee, Mew. Go for the Thunderbolt. I find out that this Hitmonlee is actually not an Unburdened set. I decided to stay in an attack just because in case this Hitmonlee try to set up, do something crazy, I just wanted to get off some chip on it so I could put it in range of my Meowscarada Flower Trick or just a Ting Lu attack. But we find out that it's AV, so we know that it's not like an Unburdened set. So I can just go directly into my Quack. It actually ends up being kind of a slower set, so I end up outspeeding with the Aqua Step. And then Quackable can pretty much just clean up this game here for me. I just keep clicking Aqua Step since I don't want this Mew to set up. I got the roll there and pretty much win the game. So yeah. Once again, another Quack endgame, another endgame Quack sweep. But yeah, overall, a very good playoff game, great quarterfinals game. Definitely a very scary team, but we were able to pull out the win. So that does take us to semifinals. And in semifinals, we actually have to rematch one of the earliest teams that we played in the season, the Dragapult team, the Dragapult Ursaluna Blood Moon team. And actually now, a bunch of changes have been made, and this team has actually gotten a lot better. Now it has a Halucha for Misty Surge on Burden. Azu is still there as a threat, but it now has the Iron Treads instead of a Skarmory, which is really good offensively into my team. I just don't have great ground switch-ins. And then the ground switch-ins I do have do just lose to the Iron Head or the other coverage moves like Ice Spinner that the Iron Treads can have. Additionally, there's also an Overqwil now for some hazards. So definitely a very scary team. So the squad that we're bringing to the semifinals game is a Expert Belt Meowscarada, Flower Trick, Sucker Punch, U-Turn, and Low Kick. This is a great win condition and endgame cleaner. Does really well here. I was really debating going Knockoff over Sucker Punch, but I decided that because of the Dragapult, potentially a Booster Speed Treads, and as well as like an Aqua Jet Azumarill and Halucha's Unburdened, I decided Sucker Punch is probably just a better option. I need to have some priority on this team, and this is my only form of priority, so I really wanted to have something, just an option just to hit those faster threats. And so we have Sucker Punch on a Meowscarada. We have a Leftovers physically defensive Regirock with Body Press, Thunder Punch, Protect for Leftovers Recovery, and Stealth Rock. We are running a Moonblast, Taunt, U-Turn, and Roost set. So if you remember, we had a Moonblast Sludge Bomb set before with Taunt, but I realized that I wasn't really clicking Sludge Bomb, and I decided U-Turn was better so I can get momentum on the Treads, because I don't want to click Sludge Bomb into Treads and then end up in a bad position because I don't have a dread switch in, as you can see. So I decided I'm going to have U-turn, and I'm just going to click U-turn every time I come in, unless Azu comes in, at which point then I click taunt to prevent it from belly drumming. So we are mono Moonblast here. We are Fizz Def, which is really nice. We definitely do take a solid amount of hits still from the Dragapult, and we can also take some hits from things like the Hawlucha, which is really nice. Now we are a eject button Tinglu. This is my main Ursaluna Blood Moon check, which is why it's max speed F. It doesn't take too much from any attack from the Ursaluna Blood Moon, and because I don't want Azu to get free hits in, or Hawlucha to get free setup, things like that, eject button does let me pivot out as I switch into Ursaluna Blood Moon, get into my Masquerada for free with Expert, but I do OHKO any spread of Ursaluna Blood Moon guaranteed, and so I can get off a free Flower Trick or free attack or a free U-turn off from there. So yeah, we are an eject button here. We are a Rocky Helmet Quack, but offensive, just because it's nice to have an option in case he tries to Iron Head with Treads or Ice Spinner, which are the two coverage moves that would hit things like Latios or Pheasantipity, or like Regirock pretty hard. We are Encore again, as you can remember from our game 2, when we played this opponent previously. We won with an Encore Quack on Azumarill into an Aqua Step Sweep. So we are bringing the tech again just because, why not? So Encore prevents Azu still from being able to belly drum while also potentially having other uses and helping us set up a nice sweep with Quackable. Now, the last one that we have here is going to be an Assault Vest Latios, and this is also for the Ursaluna Blood Moon. Because it does actually do a number to my team, I don't really have great switch-ins to it. So Assault Vest Latios actually eats hits from it really, really well. And we have Ice Beam, Energy Ball, Surf. Weird set of coverage moves, but no Draco because Galarian, Weezing, and Treads are kind of a problem. But Surf, Ice Beam, and Energy Ball all kind of hit all those mons, as well as hit Azumarill pretty hard. So it's definitely going to be interesting. All three of these moves, I have to decide when I want to click them. Ice Beam hits a lot of mons, but it kind of sucks into Azu. Azumarill hits, Energy Ball hits Azumarill, but doesn't hit some of the other switch-ins. Like Treads as hard, and then Surf obviously hits Treads really hard, but it doesn't hit Azu as hard, so it's going to take some predicting, but the goal is really going to be to position Latios in on Ursaluna Blood Moon and try to get off some really strong attacks with it, and hopefully win the game with that. But yeah, with that, we're going to hop into our semifinals game. So we see a Quack lead into Overquill. I definitely played this sequence really bad. My goal was to try and avoid having hazards up on my side, which is why I click Aqua Step here and then go for Ice Spinner afterwards. Because here I was planning on Rapid Spinning, but I realized that the Dragapult could come in for free here. And so I wanted to Ice Spinner just to hit the Dragapult coming in. But what I realized afterwards is that I could just Rapid Spin here first anyways, and that I'd speed the Dragapult no matter what after that. Then I could have gone for an Ice Spinner then and probably lived any attack. So unfortunately, I do get Toxic here, and I go for the Rapid Spin, but now he can kind of just spam attacks. He spams a Barn Barrage, almost takes out my Quackable, and I am forced out because I want to still be able to spin later, but unfortunately now he does get up a Spike. I U-turn out, or I click Taunt on the Overquill, but unfortunately Treads come in now for free. I take some Spikes damage on Tinglu as I eat the Iron Head. I get my eject button popped off, so I can go into Meowscarada here. I click low kick because I want to OHKO the Treads, but unfortunately it doesn't actually work out, and Weezing comes in. I take Rocky Helmet, so off to a really horrible start here, unfortunately, but we go into Pheasantipity on the Weezing. We get that play right, we get a Sludge Bomb off, or we eat the Sludge Bomb. We go for a U-turn on the Treads coming in, and we get to go freely into our Latios now. Latios is really good here because we don't get hit by the spikes. We can get to go for a Surf. And because we don't see a Blood Moon, I don't really value Latios' health as much. And this Treads is really a huge problem for me, so I was really happy to get that Surf damage off in exchange for the Iron Head. And now I just go for Energy Ball to hit Azu, potentially switching in on the Surf. Unfortunately, it does go Dragapult, so I do have to go into my Pheasantipity. But the Dragapult just U-turns out, goes back into the Treads. Now I'm in a bad spot again, so now I have to go into Tinglu. Pretty much just sack off the Tinglu at this point, but luckily I do catch a Volt Switch here, which is really nice. So I don't actually have to sack off my Tinglu, and I can get up a Spike, which is really cool. Treads come back in as the Hawlucha comes out. I click Whirlwind here because I don't want the Hawlucha to set up, but I luckily catch the Treads on the switch. Overquill comes in now, and I can kind of go for an Earthquake and trade a Toxic on Tinglu for the Earthquake, which I'm perfectly okay with. because at this point I've decided I'm just going to stay in with my Tinglu, get as much progress off as I can with it, which is really nice here because now I get a second spike layer up. And the second spike is really good here because it guaranteed kills the treads. It puts the Dragapult in range of a lot of my attacks. And then it also just is really nice to kill the Overquil, or at least put the Overquil really, really low. And now I can go into Regirock here as the Azu comes out. We can see that it's probably like an offensive set and not Belly Drum as it goes for knockoff. I get up rocks and now this guarantee kills the Overquil too. But unfortunately, this Azu is really wearing down my Regirock, and now my Regirock is gone, and I don't really have a great Hawlucha check, which is really unfortunate. All of my wands are super weak, and if Hawlucha gets off its Unburden, I am definitely not in a great spot. So that is really unfortunate. I make another bad play here, and I just go into Quackable, and it just dies to Azumarill's Aqua Jet, but it does put it in range of Energy Ball, which is nice. So I do get to go into Latios here. Go for the Energy Ball, get rid of it. Dragapult comes out, U-turn comes out on the Dragapult as I get in Fez. Weezing comes out here to set up Misty Surge, so I'm definitely not looking to be in a great spot right now. And here I make a huge misplay. Now, on this Fezandipity, you saw I was taunt earlier, and if I had taunted here, it would still be a 3-3 game pretty much, because this Treads and the Overquil are both dead to hazards. Now, obviously, my opponent has 2 sacks, which is really good for against my Latios, because the Latios, otherwise, every time it comes in, it does claim a kill. But I would have been in a pretty good spot here in that if I taunted on the Defog, then the Weezing would basically lose up a turn. I would get some passive recovery, and then also the Weezing would be forced out as I roost and get back healthy while all these Pokemon are still dead. So, unfortunately, though, I end up going for a Roost first before I taunt, and this Weezing ends up going for a Defog. My logic was that because Treads is a spinner, I didn't think that he would run Defog on his Weezing, especially since Defog gets rid of the terrain for his Hawlucha. I just thought that didn't make any sense, like, realistically, but unfortunately, he did end up being a Defog set, and so the hazards do go away. His terrain also goes away, but now he actually can use the Treads, so as you can see, he goes into Treads as I U-turn out. But now I get to kill it with Lottie, which is nice. And then Dragapult comes out to Revenge. I go back into Fezandipity. He goes for the U-turn, goes into Overquil here. I can just kill this with Moonblast here, which is nice. So this Mon is not too big of a deal. Unfortunately, it does outspeed me and go for the Bar Barrage. Does a little bit of chip, but still okay. Now Dragapult comes out. I mean, this is my Dragapult check, so I just stay and click Moonblast. He reveals to be Phantom Force, which I think is interesting. So here, I decide, actually, that I want to keep Fezandipity healthy for the Hawlucha. At this range, it actually still lives 2 aggros, and I can 2-shot it with Moonblast. So, because I know this Mon is locked into Phantom Force, and Meowscarada has Dark typing, it can actually live a Phantom Force. And then I can Sucker Punch it afterwards if it decides to stay in. But most likely, it won't stay in here. So, because he has a free Weezing. So, I can go for a free U-turn, pivot out on the Weezing. I do take Rocky Helmet. I'm at 6%, which does kind of suck. But now I get free Latios. And now he's forced to sack something. So, he can't sack the Dragapult because it's the only thing that's faster than this Revenge is. And he can't sack Hawlucha because Hawlucha is his win condition here. So, he's forced to sack the Weezing here, which puts me in a really good spot because now Hawlucha comes in. And I don't need Latios anymore. It loses to both these Pokemon. So, I let it drop to the Acrobatics and hit click Luster Purge so that this Mon can't set up, which means that Fezandipity still is able to live 2 hits. I go for the Moonblast. I don't get Toxic Chain, which kind of sucks, because you can see it is out of range of the Moonblast. Now here I make kind of a misplay in that you can see Acrobatics is doing 40%, so if I roosted here, then I would have been able to roost out of range and then guarantee kill this with 2 Moonblasts. However, I guess was a little bit tired from making all of the plays that I had made earlier. And I guess I just didn't think about this. I kind of stopped thinking at this point. I was kind of autopiloting. So I end up sacking the Fezandipity here. And then luckily I did end up making Meowscarada Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch does take out the Hawlucha. And then this Dragapult ends up being choice banded or choice in some way. And so Sucker Punch is able to clean up the endgame here. So I get I play a very, very good endgame here after absolutely playing horribly the first almost half of the game. But we somehow pull out with a very close 1-0, 6% on Meowscarada, clutching up and being able to win us this semifinals game here. So with this, we do end up going into the finals match. And who better to face in the finals than Corn, the only undefeated team, the first seed, and the only person who is doing better than me in the league. So Corn has a great team. It is an Iron Hands Latias team with Tentacruel, Hisuian Arcanine, Superior, and Torn T, with mons like Flygon and Trevenant as Tera Captains, and a couple other very threatening Pokemon like Hatterene and Registeel. For the matchup, I realized that my Regirock obviously looks amazing. Iron Hands check, Hisuian Arcanine check, just a general great check to all the mons, including Flygon. And also it's my team captain, my mascot, the mon that has come to every single game this season and has done incredible in every game. And so I knew I had to bring it for our finals match. So here it is: max defense, body press, earthquake, heavy slam, and stealth rock. Heavy slam to hit Hatterene, body press in general just to do big amounts of damage, earthquake to hit the Iron Hands and Terragross so that I can actually eat hits from the Iron Hands. Now our win condition, we have Choice Band, Meowscarada. Meowscarada just kind of destroys everything on this team. If I can get it in and position it, it does so much damage to everything, and it's definitely a great win condition, especially with low kick hitting Registeel, which is the only mon that can really switch into my knockoff and triple axles. I don't need Flower Trick in this matchup because there's nothing on the team that actually Flower Trick hits. So I am U-turn last, and I just do so much damage with this mon. I also have a special defensive Pheasantipity with a bit of attack. And this is primarily just for the Superior, as well as the Torn T. And this lets me do a lot of damage to the Serp and the Torn T, while also giving me a switch in and more momentum in U-turn, potentially toxic chain chances, and another way to get in my Meowscarada on mons that it can threaten out. And we have an Assault Vest Tinglu, a bit of an elaborate EV spread with Adamant Nature, some attack EVs, and then some Spadef and some Speed. Speed lets me outspeed Iron Hands, and this mon just looks incredible offensively while also being a great Latias and a Hatterene check. And Heavy Slam with this investment actually OHKOs Hatterene if it's just max HP. And then also lets me two-shot max HP, max defense Latias, which is really nice. And then also obviously does significant damage to Iron Hands and OHKOs Hisuian Arcanine. And Heavy Slam also does a lot of damage to Flygon with this tag investment. So offensively, my Tinglu looks really, really good here. And defensively, it also is really strong. And then we have a Leftovers Golden Go. We are Shadow Ball, Make It Rain, Nasty Plot, and Recover. We are Max Special Attack Modest here. We are a bit bulky, just so we can take hits generally. Things from like Hatterene and Tentacruel. This is kind of my blanket check to them. And we are just classic set so that we can threaten potential Pokemon with things like Nasty Plot and and break past Registeel mainly. And then finally, we have a Choice Scarf Latios. So this is going to be a battle of the Latis. I have Latios and Corn has Latias, so we can see who is the better Lati. And mine is Scarfed with Psyshock, Shadow Ball, Ice Beam, and Flip Turn. These three cover moves pretty much just hit the entire team pretty hard. But unfortunately, it does end up being in the game that Luster Purge would have been better. But I originally went Psyshock here because I was almost confident that the Iron Hands would be Assault Vest, and Psyshock actually did more damage to Assault Vest. I was also concerned about Assault Vest 20, and so I ended up being a Psyshock here for those specific scenarios. But yeah, with that, we can get into the finals match, and if I win this, this will be my first ever chip. So definitely a lot riding on the line here on this one match. And as you can see, the Hatterene, Hisuian Arcanine comes, Latias, Flygon, Tentacruel, and Iron Hands. I did not expect the Arcanine at all. And so that was definitely something that was really scary from preview. And because this is the finals match, I'm going to go a little bit slower here and kind of talk through some of my plays. So I lead off with my Scarf Latios just because it's a really good lead into pretty much everything, and I can flip turn out into anything that's unfavorable. I know here, even if it's a Scarf Flygon, I can flip turn out on it freely, so I do so as a Tera Fairies. And then I go into my Regirock because this is my main Flygon check. Unfortunately, it does U-turn out, so he does get Lottie in for free. This Mon is very scary to me, so I go into Tinglu. I take almost nothing from this Draco Meteor because Assault Vest Tinglu is so good. And then Iron Hands comes in here as I throw Chop. I could have made a predict. It's very obvious that Iron Hands was coming in, but I didn't want to just because it's so early in the game. I still had enough health on Tinglu that I would have been okay. So I was very tempted here to click Earthquake. So something to consider here is that Knockoff from Meowscarada almost OHKOs all of these Pokemon, except for Iron Hands. Iron Hands only takes like 40% potentially from a max HP variant to a max HP variant, which is what this is. And so I realized that, you know, getting some chip on this Iron Hands would be really nice for a Meow endgame. However, I didn't want to give up health on my Tinglu when the Hatterene and the Latios are still almost fully healthy. So I go into my Pheasantipity as he goes for a Volt Switch on my Tinglu, which is just insane. But now Flygon comes in for free. I don't want to take an Earthquake because I do die to it, so I go into Regirock. Unfortunately, take a lot of chip. But now I can get off my Tera, so now I won't be weak to the Earthquake next time I come in. Regirock comes out, and I go for a Heavy Slam because I predict the Hatterene coming in. Unfortunately, the Latias ends up coming in. But now I can go directly into my Tinglu here as Mist Ball comes out, so I do take the Mist Ball. And now I go for another Throat Chop. I don't do much to this Hatterene, so this tells me that this Mon is max defense and max HP, which means that my Heavy Slam does not actually OHKO the Hatterene, even though it would have if it was just max HP. However, this Tinglu is only for this Hatterene and Latias, so I'm okay with trading a bit of damage, even with Draining Kiss, because I know Heavy Slam does two-shot it. So the Draining Kiss does come out. It gets off a significant amount of recovery, but now it will die to another Heavy Slam. Knowing that it dies to another Heavy Slam, Earthquake is also a roll to kill. And so I decide that he's either going to go into Iron Hands on the Heavy Slam or Tentacruel, or even the Hisuian Arcanine to try and get some offensive pressure. And Earthquake is really good into all three of them. So I decide I'm going to go for the safe mid-ground of Earthquake, and I catch the Tentacruel on the switch and OHKO it. Now Iron Hands comes back in again, and I'm super tempted because last time he Volt Switched on my Tinglu. I'm very tempted to go for another Earthquake here, because if I get off this chip, then at this point, Meow just kind of looks insane, especially with Hatterene chip. Now it guaranteed dies to my knockoff, and pretty much everything is in range. And because of that, I'm very tempted, but I decide to play it safe. I go into Pheasantipity, and he does Volt Switch again. Crit doesn't really matter here, but now I'm in kind of a bad spot into this Arcanine because I don't have any checks to it. My Regirock is 2-chipped. If it is like a Bandit set, I know it's going to take around 30%, which means it will get like 2-shot. Even though I'll kill the Arcanine, then I just lose the Flygon. I don't have any answers to Tera Fairy Flygon. So because of that, I decide I'm going to stay in with Fez. And even though this is my Iron Hands check, I kind of have to give it up here. If it is Scarf, I don't kill. He doesn't kill, and I get off a U-turn, which can help me position, and I can get in my Scarf Lottie and threaten this Pokemon out, or go into my Meowscarada and get a low kick kill. Either I'll kill this with low kick, or I'll do a bunch of damage to Iron Hands and get it in range of my Meow for later. If it is banded, it will kill me, and if it's banded, then I will know that it's banded. I can still go Meow and revenge it afterwards. So Head Smash comes out, and we see that it is actually banded. So now I go into Lottie. However, I realize here that going Lottie was not good. I should have just gone to Meow and click low kick. Low kick was very free here, because even if he decides to go Latios on my low kick, I can just go into Tinglu, and then I get another kill there. So unfortunately, I do make the bad play here and go to Latios. So because of this, I have to decide another sack. I do have a chance to kill with Luster Purge, but it's not guaranteed. And Latios is too valuable for me to risk it on a roll. So what I decide to do is I decide to flip turn twice. In case this also covers him potentially switching out into Iron Hands or switching out into something like the Hatterene. And at this point, because the Latias and the Hatterene are super chipped, and Golden Go loses anyways to the Arcanine, the Flygon, and the Iron Hands, Golden Go is looking a bit expendable. And so I'm okay with potentially, if the Arcanine decides to stay in, with sacking off my Golden Go at this point. Because I know that Tinglu at 55% still has enough health to deal with both of them. Since I outspeed the Hatterene, and I kill it with anything at this point, and then I also guarantee kill the Latias with my Throat Chop. So I go into Golden Go. He does decide to stay in, and unfortunately it does two-shot me. If I had a bit more bulk, I actually wouldn't have gotten two-shot, which would have been really nice. I would have been in a really nice position. But unfortunately, I didn't, so I had to sack off my Golden Go, and then now I go for a flip turn again as Hatterene comes out. So now here I get my Tinglu for free. I can click Earthquake, guarantee kills the Hatterene, and kills anything coming in. He decides to sack the Arcanine, which is really good for me. Here, Flygon comes in. And Flygon is really kind of problematic, right? Because if I go into Regirock, he can U-turn out into Latios for free, and then I don't have any switch-ins. Then I have to sack, pretty much. So what I decide is that instead of allowing that and getting chip on my Regirock, instead I'll just stay in, I'll take the U-turn, and then I can go for a Heavy Slam and kill the Hatterene coming in. Unfortunately, he decides to go Latias instead of Hatterene, and I end up having to sack my Tinglu to the Latias' Draco Meteor. However, the Latias only has 5% here, so it is almost dead. And now I go into Latios here, and I click Flip Turn because I don't want to let in the Flygon or the Iron Hands, and I want to go into Meowscarada so that I can pretty much pick up any kill here. Is kind of the idea. So now I go into Meowscarada, click Knockoff, get rid of the Hatterene. We find out that it's a Assault Vest, which makes sense. Now the Flygon comes in. And so now I'm in a really, really, really awkward position. And this is like a really problematic endgame for me because this Flygon here, if it has Terra Blast, it does actually OHKO my Meowscarada. U-turn does not, and First Impression does not. So that's important to note. And we also know that this Mon is not choice because we saw it switch moves earlier. So I actually find out after the game that this Mon is Soft Sand. So I do know that U-turn and First Impression do not kill me. I do take like 70%, but I do still live. And right now, the only obstacle to my Latios sweeping here is this Flygon. It has too much health. Otherwise, my Scarf Latias just kills all of these Pokemon with Psyshock, or it doesn't kill Iron Hands outright, but Iron Hands can't OHKO my Latias, and I do get to outspeed it and hit it with 2 Psyshocks, which does guarantee kill at this range, even if he's max HP and Assault Vest, because I am using Psyshock. So I really just need a bit of chip on this Flygon. And so I'm okay with taking the chip on my Meowscarada in exchange for the knockoff here. Knockoff damage here to put Flygon in range of the Latios Psyshock. Now, the other option that could happen here is he could go into Iron Hands on my knockoff, and I would do about 20%, and then I'd have to go into Regirock as he Volt Switches, goes into Latios, and then he gets a free kill. However, my thought process was that if that happens, if I go for a knockoff, Iron Hands takes a bit of damage, comes in. I have to go into Regirock because I can't risk my Meowscarada or my Latios. I will lose if they get damage. I can go into Regirock here. If Latios comes out, then I can sack off my Meowscarada, and I can go into Latios. So by sacking off Meowscarada, I guarantee not allow the Latios to recover. And I also can cover any double into something like the Flygon. And I can take out either of those Pokemon. At this range, I actually kill both of these Pokemon with Triple Axle. And I can U-turn out on a potential Iron Hand switch, which lets me get in my Latios for free. And at that point, I can just win the game with spamming 3 Psyshocks. Hence, this line seems like the best to me. And I decided to just click Knockoff. I get the chip on the Flygon. He does end up going for U-turn. Goes into Iron Hands. So now I can go into my Regirock, as I said. as the double comes out into Flygon. But at this point, because the double was into Flygon, I didn't even have to sack my Meowscarada here. If he doubled into Latias, I would have to sack my Meowscarada, and then I would have to go into Latios. The Latios would die to the Life Orb, so it would be a double down, and then I would essentially go into Latios, and then I would pretty much win from there because the Flygon has taken too much chip, and the Iron Hands can't OHKO me in one. So here I go into, I just click Body Press here, trying to get the chip on the Iron Hand so I can put it into guaranteed Psyshock range. And I do get it. The Regirock putting in the work, putting in that crucial chip right there. And now Latias comes in. Now I make my sack on the Meowscarada because this allows, once this Latias goes down, Flygon and Iron Hands both lose to Regirock. So he needs to keep this Latias for my Regirock, or otherwise he'll just lose to it. But he ends up going for the Draco Meteor here as I sack Meowscarada, so Latias goes down. And now Regirock just walls both of these Pokemon, but also my Psyshock Lottie just cleans up here. So I just decide I'm going to go to Psyshock Lottie. I'm just going to click Psyshock twice, and I do win the game. However, here, even if the first impression killed, my Regirock was never losing to both of these Pokemon. It has way too much defense and does too much damage with Body Press, and so I had a guaranteed win there too. So yeah, with that, I do end up winning my first ever Draft League chip within 6 months of starting. So it definitely feels really, really good. Definitely pretty happy with my performance in this league. And my team, I think, was kind of just amazing. Definitely my play style. I really enjoyed using mons like Pheasantipede and Tinglu, but I think Regirock was just an insane Tera Captain for me this season. It's definitely a Tera Captain that you should watch out for and you should consider. You can see how much work it put in throughout the season. It just takes so many hits. It's so bulky and does so much damage with Body Press just because of its absurd defensive stats. So definitely a really cool Tera Captain and definitely an amazing season. Let me know what you guys thought of the season and the run down below. But if you made it this far, thank you guys for watching. And yeah, keep a lookout. I'm going to be putting out another movie just like this for another league within a week or so. But yeah, shout out to Central, to Eternal, to Korn, and Sir Blue, all for helping me throughout this season, just with mocks and ideas and things like that. So, but yeah, definitely a very fulfilling season, something I'm really proud of, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. But I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching.